You're good, Greg.
Welcome to the Tree Advisory Commission meeting, Thursday, January 4th, 2024. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome all, welcome guests, and we'll go around the room, starting with Joe. If you want to introduce yourselves, please.
Joe Stad, I'm city engineer.
Miriam Hoffman.
Lee Knopf.
Greg Dearson, Commissioner.
Tom Romaine, Vice Chair.
Paul Eklund, Commissioner. Tony Guggesberg, Advisor.
Joey Schugel, Park and Rec Director.
Jeff Huffman, Public Works Superintendent.
Thank you. And we have Jordy Vita as a guest. We'll include him later today, so welcome. We look for, or I'll seek, approval of the agenda for today.
I move that the approval of the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion and support to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. Seeing none, we will operate with this agenda, and I'll seek approval of the minutes from November 2nd, 2023.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments on the November minutes? Any discussion on those minutes?
We had, okay, that'd be old business. Go on.
Okay. Then all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposition, same sign. Thank you. Those minutes are approved. Then number 5 is to welcome our new commissioners. They introduce themselves, but Miriam Hoffman on my left and Lee, last name Knopf,
Correct.
right? Okay. And their term began in 2024. So we are at a full suite of 5 commissioners. Wonderful. The number 6, old business. Joe, would you take us through that, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission members. So per our last meeting, the Commission requested additional funding from the City Council, specifically for the Disease Boulevard and Tree Program, and that was approved by the City Council, that request. So our total budget amount is that $12,800, with $10,000 of that being in the reimbursement programs for disease tree and the boulevard tree replanting programs. So right now we're at full budget, and I would expect reimbursements to start coming in for the 2024 calendar year as removals happen, and once we get to spring, once replants begin as well. So, end report.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions regarding?
None.
Appreciate the addition to our budget, taking it up to $10,000. We used it all on the program last year, and likely to see that again this year. So it's a good addition. 6.2, the PUC update. Derek Nelson, but he's not here. Anyone?
I did not hear from Derek, so
Okay.
no update.
And then we'll take 6.3, Park and Rec Department update. Joey?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Park and Rec update for today is recently staff contracted for removal of 22 ash trees in Nels Park, if you've been around that area. So those were, that did not remove our total of ash trees in Nels Park, but the park does look significantly different if you've been around there. So those were all trees that were identified with that significant infestation of EAB. And street department helped with stump grinding up there just recently, finished up today, I believe. And our goal then is in spring/summer to replant and reforest that area as well. So without that DNR grant now, we're looking at ways to chip away at some of our ash inventory in our city parks, and this was a start. We do not have funding to further take care of the problem. We might identify some smaller areas, but this was a start of that. And we hope to secure additional grant funding here in the future as well to help us do that. Additionally, crews are tree trimming. You know, weather's been great for that and has been allowing our crews to trim some of our areas that have been in need of doing that. So they continue to do that and will continue to do that. And yeah, that's the report I had for today. Anything that you guys have questions on?
Thank you. Any questions for Joey?
Is this the time?
This is the time.
This is the time? Okay. I walked the city streets and noticed that pruning's been going on. Is that your crew?
Mr. Huffman's going to give an update on that here
Maybe I should
shortly.
talk to him instead. I'll wait till that happens.
Okay.
All right.
I had a comment from someone about the trees in Nails Park, and it's good that we had planted in the ones that we did prior to this. I don't remember the timeline on that, but that was maybe the highest percentage park with ashes that we had. I'm not sure of the data, but
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I think we have 39 total ash trees in that park alone. This took care of 22 of those. Those large boulevard trees leading into the park are ash trees as well. Those are still there, and we have no plans of taking them down this year, but they will need to go as well. But yes, over the last few years, there's been calculated plantings there in anticipation of losing those trees there, and we'll continue to do that.
okay, seeing no other questions for Park and Recs, we'll take a look at 6.4, Public Works. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Jeff Huffman, City of Newell Public Works Superintendent. Yeah, our crews, since we don't have no snow now and the nice weather, we've been out trimming trees. We're pretty much going up and down every street. They got all the north-south streets are done already, and now they're working on the east-west streets. So they're, yeah, just moving along and cleaning them up and getting, taking the suckers off and anything that's gonna be a hazard with, hitting our sweeper, any of, when we do our reconstruct or seal coating, if anything's gonna be in the way, it's usually right around 13 feet we go up to, and if there's any dead, or hanging branches, they'll go up and clean them out, and things like that, so. They've been working on that, and then like Joey said, yeah, we went up and cut out those 22 stumps, did a few more for PUC, and we'll see how the weather goes. I know there's a few more stumps around, but
Okay.
we'll see how the weather goes with that, but otherwise, that's all I have to report.
Yeah, Paul's got a question, I'm sure, for you.
Yes, I do. Your guidance is to clear off all suckers and the crew got educated last spring or last winter, whatever it was. And when I see the result of some of the pruning, I get a little distressed. I don't like to see pruning done on newly planted trees with a power pruner, and that's been happening. The person doing it knew that they could take the whole top out of the tree when they hiccup. They did pretty well in most cases, but they should not be pruning trees an inch in diameter or less with a power pruner. Do they have tools
Yes, we got.
in addition to that?
We got loppers too, yeah.
Okay. Can you bring that to their attention?
Bring that to their attention, yes.
And
For those
also
smaller
on
trees.
newly planted trees, it's best not to prune up all the vegetation from the ground up to 7 foot when the tree is just a sapling and has no side branches. Every leaf helps it grow, so it's good to leave those until they get a little bit bigger to help the tree grow. Can you pass that on too?
I can pass that on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Jeff? Otherwise, we'll advance into 6.5, Private Tree Services Update. Tony's here today.
Yeah, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman, Just a few comments. It's nice to see that there's more funds in for planting boulevard trees. I know that the city's been working on planting boulevard trees, and brings me up, a few people have mentioned to me that, you know, they've gotten a tree planted in their yard or boulevard area. But the problem that I see and some people see is those trees that are planted, sometimes people, after, the contractor's supposed to water them for a year, but after that, nobody takes care of it. And I've talked to people, I said, how come you're not watering a tree? They says, we didn't plant it. So, it's kind of like, okay, somebody planted a tree in your yard, take care of it, but they feel like it's not theirs. So what we have the program that, people get paid a little bit, a rebate, kind of a percentage. So that seems to work better, I think, for getting these trees in the boulevard, because people actually buy the tree, even though they're getting reimbursed partially, but then they take ownership in it and actually take care of the tree. But I've seen a lot of dead trees the last 3 years, and part of it is it didn't rain for 3 years now.
They need
So,
water. Yeah.
and they need water. And like I said, I've just talked to some people, and they're like, I didn't plant the tree. I think we see that with some of the sodding jobs sometimes. Joe knows about that. It would get sodded out Boulevard, and people say, I didn't lay the sod. I'm not going to water it. So, it's nice to see that. We need to encourage more people with the tree reimbursement program. Go buy a tree somewhere. We'll give you some funds to help pay for it. But at least that way, they're putting their effort into it, some of their own money, and they'll take care of the tree. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, we discussed the watering idea last year and the year before even, how crucial that is in those early plants. So maybe that's something to encourage again within the,
One thought I had was that when the city plants a boulevard tree, maybe they should plant that, or if there's funds for it, and put one of those watering bags on it. And maybe
Well, who's
talk
going
to the
to,
resident or some sort, if nobody's home, a doorknob hanger. And
Mr.
say,
Chair.
well, why don't you fill that bag once a week?
Something that we've done on, our roadway reconstruction projects, which Mr. Gugesberg is referencing, is, many times we have to take a tree out because it's on top of a sewer or water service, or it's too big for the boulevard. So generally, we replant those one for one unless we are specifically told by the homeowner they don't want it. In those instances, what we could look at doing is, what we've been doing recently with sod is, we'll send a letter out and saying that what the contractor responsibility is when that approximately ends, and then after that, it's their responsibility to water and maintain it. We could look at doing the same thing with trees after we plant them, so at least the property owners are aware that the onus is on them. Trees are a little bit different because our contractor has them for 2 years for their warranty period. So, but additional notification or education is something we can work on internally in our office on those recon projects.
so is everybody that gets a tree planted on the boulevard, are they notified prior to that? And if they said, no, I don't want a tree, do they have that option?
Yeah, generally we try to get out ahead of removals just to let property owners know, because many times they're big majestic trees that have to come down because they're right, the curb stop is growing into, or the tree's growing around the curb stop or something like that. So most of the time they're contacted before that tree comes down. That's when that conversation happens. So,
Okay.
at least we attempt to. We don't get 100% contact, but yeah.
we've used those bags have been used up on Herman Heights. And did you find them to be effective for the most part?
Yeah, it's another maintenance thing that we have to do, but that's another thing. If I could look at, maybe that's how we spec the tree plantings out, is that they're installed with the watering bag and things. There's different specifications we can add to projects, and I can look at some MnDOT guidance on that because we have to follow the MnDOT specs and things of that nature. But we can do a little bit of research and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, in a lot of our parks, we will add watering bags to the newer trees there, not in every case, but what it ends up happening is dedicates staff, a lot of staff time to that, and we do the best we can with everything else that's going on at the time, and bags are a way to save some of that time. Instead of, I mean, we could have someone, a full-time staff watering every day, everywhere, without the bag, so that has made some of our staff time more efficient on adding added bags where we can.
And maybe we'll get back to a normal year and actually have rain in summer. That helps a lot. That's the best approach, so.
What's the ballpark price on those bags? They're pretty, less than a tree.
Chair, I don't have exact low cost. We have inventory of those. Yeah, yes.
That might be something to pursue if we're in year 4 of dry, is making those available or sourcing them somehow for people.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Good discussion, especially as we look at continuing this through town. Do you need more for 6.6? Joe, do you need more Emerald Ash Borer update for
I
us?
don't have any update at this time.
Okay. Then I'll welcome our guest today, Jordy Veit, with a Buckthorn update as part of 6.7.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jordy Veit. I don't have much of an update, but I just wanted to come in case anybody had questions. For the new members, I am doing through the University of Minnesota. They have a citizen science project that's looking at buckthorn removal and then planting native species in there. That has been going on for several years. That will continue through this summer as well. So obviously during the winter, there isn't much going on. Typically, it's April or so before we start to update the site and do our first site visit. That may happen earlier this year if the weather holds this way. But other than that, I don't have any particular update at this point. But if anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Joy. Our next agenda item, 6.8, is our meeting dates for the remainder of the year. Our dates are set for March and May, but July 4th is an off day. So I look for one of the commissioners to suggest another date. The chair has no preference for A or B, so.
So, Mr. Chair,
Joey, do you have
Commissioners, if I may, please note on these two date options, they are not Thursdays, they are Wednesdays. The council chambers are not available on Thursdays the week prior or the week after our normally scheduled meeting. So these are Wednesdays. If you recall your last meeting in 2023, one of the options also presented was potentially not to meet, and you all indicated that you didn't have interest in that option. So that's not on here. It's not to say that couldn't be added today if that interest has changed.
I have no problem with either date, but is there anybody here that would not be available on one of those two dates?
I might not be able to make it on the 26th of June,
Would July 10th be?
probably.
Either date is fine with me.
I would prefer July 10th only because June 26th is the Wednesday before our AutoFest show. So we'll be prepping for that.
Sounds like July 10 is the preferential date.
Okay, well, I would offer a motion that we would hold our July 10th meeting instead of the July 4th meeting.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and second to that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition, same. So we'll include that as a Wednesday, July 10, 4 p.m. here, council chambers. we now have that luxury of a quorum met with 3, and it's easier to catch, but hopefully we'll still be able to meet that day and still have all of us. We'll see what midsummer brings. Our other dates are September 5th and 7th. September 5th and November 7th to fill out the rest of the year's meeting dates. Concluding our old business, we'll go into the number 7, new business, and then 7.1, our home show participation. The brochure is attached if you want to take a peek at that. $300 is the cost per booth, and that budgeted amount was in our budget to fulfill that. And it's been a standing event for the Tree Commission to be there. So any questions, comments on that? Do we need a standing, since we've got it in our budget, do we need to approve?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair and Commissioners, this is in new business today, just to, find if your wishes are to, us to register for the home show again in 2024, that we would make approve staff to register for that, for the home show. And then, some of the details on whether, what the booth would look like, and, if there are any type of different education or whatever programs you want to identify while at the home show. I think the date is within the packet there of the home show this year. I believe it's late March.
March 22 and 23.
Right.
And the hours to occupy the booth, 3 to 8 p.m. on Friday the 22nd, and then 9 to 4 on Saturday, with setup beforehand and takedown after. It didn't take us too long. I think last year Paul and I set it up with Mr. Tom. He was there, so.
I have some potential conflicts with the dates. I may not be available on the 21st, and I'm for sure not going to be available on the 23rd.
Okay. I am available. Paul, perhaps
I'll have to
look at it.
my calendar eventually.
I'll be available.
Okay. We meet on March 7th, so we'll be able to iron out the hours on who's what, but looks like we'll be able to complete it. Last year, we had some literature on emerald ash borer, a lot of questions. Over 100 people stopped and visited about identification, and then locations of trees, along the boulevard, and to whom does the tree belong? We had that question a lot. So, but a lot of interest for sure. So, Joy, any more?
Great. Yep. Staff will move forward with that registration then as allocated in the 2024 budget.
Okay. I think we also had the big tree species, looking ahead to 7.3, we had that, and that was one of the other items that people could look at that day. So on March 7th, we'll iron out exact, everybody will know their schedule by then pretty well, so. Did I call that motion?
You did not.
I should call, I'm going to call that motion to make sure that we're in good order. All in favor of attending the home show in 2024, say aye.
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 Any opposition, same? Okay. Thank you, Joey. 7.2 is the utility bill informational inserts. The months that we have approved are April and August. Any suggested topics?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, before you get into potential topics, I did want to point out what you spent in 2023 per per insert. So right now you're allocated 2. However, the second one in late July of last year cost just under $700 for 2-sided black and white. If you look at your budget, there's 700 total for the year. So just keeping that in mind and how you want to proceed, costs have substantially risen there as well. So that if you intended to do 2 inserts again, we might have to shift around some of the budget.
Wishes?
So do we need a motion on something?
Not yet, I don't think.
Now that was for discussion, with, I know last year as we looked at that second insert, on what information to provide, there would be some cost cutting measures, maybe not 2-sided might save you a little. It's not gonna, reduce it in half, but, I guess we'll talk about what the wishes are of the commission, and then we can, look at how that impacts the budget.
What was do you know, without looking it up, what the price of the first billing insert was?
I only have the second one, Mr. Chair, with me today. The nice thing is with us scheduled for both April and August, we will have another meeting before the April insert would have to be, the deadline we'd have, so we could come with a more firm idea or information on where the commission wants to go with the insert.
Do you remember what you had on there last year? At all? On the insert?
It would have been the big tree contest.
Okay.
And then the fall one was pruning and management. I think we had EAB information on
We have,
the spring one too.
what other venues would we have to communicate with the people who live in the city with issues? We've already been talking about watering and boulevard tree care, which would be a good topic for the April or the springtime thing. And the other thing that concerns me is we keep getting the news about the options for cost share, and then I have a personal concern about the spotted lanternfly coming to Minnesota. People should be looking out for that. So, is there a better way to reach people than a stuffer? Because it's costly. I agree, and but I don't know how to reach them any other way unless it would probably, if we could work with the newspaper and get some public information stuff into the newspaper, that would be great. If we don't have to, buy an ad.
Sure.
Or something on the city website.
Mr. Chair, commission members, a couple different routes. We have multiple avenues via social media that we could distribute information. We could talk to the Journal and see if we can get an article in there. And then the other option, which other departments do, would be community affairs at KNUJ. I think would all be viable options to get the word out if you're looking at maybe reducing the flyer to 1 stuffer per year. And then those other avenues generally are free most of the time. So, we could even do a town talk article in the Journal, and the city can send that in, and
We
have
probably
that
do
published,
a good
so.
job of reaching people who can't sleep.
Yeah. So there are options out there that are low to no cost. So we just have to develop that message you want portrayed, and we can work on that.
I think we, for now, would keep the April one, because if we include the big tree and the watering message, those would be useful right away, but we'll also have a better handle on this. As we come out of winter, we'll know how dry it's going to be.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we talk about the big tree contest, and I don't know what, it cost us a little money, in the budget, but do we need to do it anymore? I think we're running out of list of trees, really. And if we don't have it, is it really going to affect anything? So, and then we could save that pamphlet for other information, instead of putting on the tree contest, just my thoughts, but, because a lot of people ask me questions that I think of, people keep asking me, now, the tree on the boulevard, is that the city's responsibility? Do I have to take it down? Maybe this is some of the things we could have on there. Who's responsible for the trees in their yard? Just, people don't know. They still think that some of the trees in their yard, the ash trees, the city's going to take down, which are not. They got to find their own private contractor for that. And then, what programs are out there? What trees can they plant? Because with all these ash trees coming down, people don't know. So maybe we could just highlight some of that stuff on that April brochure, that there is funds out there if they do want to plant a tree for the boulevard. I know there used to be programs for shade trees in their yard too, but I don't think there's any budget for that anywhere.
Not
So,
anymore.
Yeah. But it's just stuff like that to educate them. But you can just have the contest for the big tree yet. We're running out of trees, but if we can use that money for something else, I don't think anybody's going to miss it. So, my thoughts.
I think that educational aspect is a flyer that's gotten sent out in the past, so that would be easy to recreate and just update with new information with anything that's changed. So
Any other questions, comments? Part of it will occur in the 7.3 here next, so we'll move to 7.3 and discuss the Big Tree Contest for 2024. I tried to open the Big Tree Contest data, and I can't get it to pop up for my screen here. I remember, though, the first one on the list was, the first one that was there was ash in 2010?
2009, Mr. Chair.
And then a couple years later, there was a generic oak. So maybe that would be, that would maybe be one, is to specify either a red oak or bur oak. But you got yours to pull? Okay.
It's on the end of after the home show application on page 7 of 7.
It's deep. Okay.
It also,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it also on that spreadsheet lists some future ideas as well.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I have it here if you want me to go through it.
I found
Oh, you
it.
got it? Okay.
Yep.
Be interesting to do Ginkgo because they've been planted. Or, we have a few elms left in the city. It would be interesting to see. There's a couple sizable ones, and then there have been some of the DED resistant trees planted on the boulevard as well. So, and it's been since 2013 that elm has been a species. And or we could do ash to see if they're
Does it have to be
still
alive?
there.
Does it have to be alive? If the stump is alive, does it still count?
I have an anecdote for you later.
Open to suggestions. Maybe we cycle through the elm again?
I would make a motion that we go with elm this year in the big tree contest.
What species of elm?
Pardon me?
American elm? Both. Or Siberian elm?
If American elm, red elm, and if you can find some rock elm.
Yeah,
So we just take elm species. There's
okay.
Was that a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. It might be a good excuse to pair the elm and the ash together as part of the dialogue for what happened prior and what's happening now. So, be a good talking point at least for our media outlets.
so then goes kind of hand in hand with how do we publicize the big tree contest this year if we don't do an August,
I'd be fine with that.
so.
All right, we've got a motion and second to make the Elm this year's big tree contest. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same?
Aye.
Nope.
If we do have just an April stuffer, maybe we should change the dates of the big tree contest to fall in with that publication of the contest and hold the contest earlier in the year.
Yeah, the start date has really been, I don't know that that's as big a deal as the end date and the measure date for submissions. So it really starts whenever we would get that stuffer out, and April would be fine. Do you know the dates of that? Is our March 7 meeting to the April stuffer, is that quick enough turnaround time?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that should give us enough time. After that March 7th meeting, though, we won't have weeks to get that in. We'll have to get that in pretty quickly. I can get an exact date for you, though, too.
But Jeff Anderson has typically produced most of that document for us,
Correct.
so. Any other questions about the big tree contest? We'll keep the future ideas still on the list and leave them there. Somebody can maybe brainstorm or produce another. Maybe the ginkgo is a good future option.
There are a few ginkgos around that we could measure. I know of two only. There's maybe more. Beside that are big enough to measure. You know, the ones that are,
Yep.
put your hand around, that doesn't hurt for much.
As far as the big tree contest and that flyer, while the big tree is one side, probably the other side could be our watering information and some of those ownership questions that are standing. Does anyone feel a desire to work on that document and get it to a nice one page of Q&A? Because that's going to be the same ones that we do end up doing at the home show, those same types of questions a lot. So
When would this date of this brochure, this handout be? When was that date?
we could look at a draft on March 7th.
Draft on March 7th.
Yeah, and I'll help with that. I'd be willing to assist with that, so that we could, the commissioners could get a good look at it, and then run it to print. But it would be good for us to review that information before we field those same questions at the home show.
Right.
So if you're willing to work on that, Paul, I'll
I
work with you.
would- I would work on that.
Okay.
We're talking ownership of the boulevard trees, watering guidelines, and the big trees on the other side, is that the?
Yep.
Okay. Two sides.
But then you've got that potential narrative for one of these media outlets that we're going back to the elm because the elm got replaced largely with ashes, and now the ashes are going. So rather than make the same mistake a third time. And that's part of the boulevard trees, there was discussion about that when people didn't get to choose what went in. Why not this, why not that? There was a directive behind that. Not from us, but the DNR held that within their grant, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair. And with this update, the timing could work out really well then with the proof to you March 7th, printing of those for the utility stuffer, but also printing for the home show booth as well. that could all work in conjunction and could be really good timing.
Thank you, Joy. Any other new business?
None.
The date of our next meeting then, as previously stated, March 7th of 2024, 4 PM here. And again, please try to get agenda items to the administrative assistant 1 week prior to the meetings. With no further business, we are adjourned.